When a creature has developed into one thing, he will choose death rather than change into his opposite. Frank Herbert, Dune Messiah. The pre-Socratic philosophers of ancient Greece often debated on a particular contradiction in reality. How could something change, yet stay the same? This was both a metaphorical and literal question. How could a river be the same river if the water is always different? What traits, if any, are key to forming something's identity? A common example of this paradox is the metaphorical ship of Theseus. It is said that a ship belonging to the great hero Theseus was to be preserved at any cost, so that whenever a part of the ship began to break, it was replaced without delay. Eventually, every last plank on the ship of Theseus was replaced at least once, and none of the original material remained. Is this still, then, the same ship that originally belonged to Theseus? The parallels to the ship and ourselves are many. We as humans grow in both body and mind, but we usually retain our name assigned at birth. If shown a picture of yourself at any point in your life, you would likely respond and identify as the figure in said picture, despite the differences in physical and mental state. What is it that causes us to so confidently state that this nearly unrelated person is indeed us? Regardless of what personal answer you have, it is understandable that this idea greatly disturbs many. After all, don't we all have some things we would not compromise even at threat of death? Some parts so core to our identity that to lose them would be to lose our very self. The character of Vera was like this as well. Despite truly staggering amounts of pressure and pain, she held on tightly to her ideals, refusing to change what she considered the center of her identity. But Vera died, and a different Vera took her place. Vera was the medic of death, or so she was called behind her back, and at times to her face. She was the sole survivor of disasters that had raised 5 separate squads. Rumors abound of her suspect character and supernatural ability to attract disaster. Red-headed death. At first, Vera ignored them. Later, she resented them. Now, she could no longer take it. Yet another cluster of whispers started the moment she entered the room. But one construct soldier was different, staring her right in the eye, not even pretending to hide his contempt. Before Vera knew it, her mechanical fist had collided with the body of her fellow construct. Simulated pain shot up through her arm. But Vera was past caring. Vera had worked herself to the bone, learning the discipline of medicine, adapting to her construct frame, learning military strategy, and helping her comrades to the best of her ability. But still they died one after the other. Died no matter how hard she tried to save them. Vera continued to pummel the soldier until forcibly restrained. It was days later, and Vera was out of confinement and on the front line. When the opportunity came to serve a mission away from the field hospital, she took it. Much to Vera's shock, the orders from command were to abandon the remaining civilians and retreat with whatever supplies they could carry. No. She'd rather die than be complicit in this betrayal. After stating her intentions to defend the civilians by herself, only one comrade tried to stop her. This would be the redemption of red-headed death. Vera now lay dying on a mound of scrapped, corrupted, and dead constructs. Just one. If she could have saved just one. But no, it was not to be. Those brave idiots on her squad, they went to get orders to try and save her. By the time Vera realized her attempted last stand wasn't going to plan, their fate was sealed. She rushed to find her comrades and help them combat the tide of enemy corrupted. Vera found her squad, and she fought to her last breath. Fought until her body would no longer respond to her commands. Fought through pain, agony, fear, and rage, but it wasn't enough. At least her pain was to soon be at an end. But even this plan was foiled. Vera somehow hung on to life, some deeper part of her screaming that she must live. A part deeper still than all her ideals and promises she once held. Vera could no longer remember wanting to save lives. She couldn't even remember the reason why that even mattered to her. A shadow fell over her. A friendly transport. A ghoulish grin came over Vera's face. She almost wanted to laugh. Death, pain, Suffering? It was all just a joke. The cruel joke of the universe on those unlucky enough to exist within it. She relished in the pain. For as long as she hurt, she yet lived. Let me live, Vera whispered, with the last gasp of her vocal modules. She was not asking. This was a command. The transport that discovered her on the battlefield belonged to the private military contractor Karuno. The pile of bodies found beneath her is good of a reference as one could ask for. Vera was immediately offered a place among their ranks. She accepted without hesitation. And so, red-headed death sold her soul. When faced with becoming her opposite, a creature she despised, Vera chose death. She chose to die standing for what she believed in. So Vera did indeed die that day. She died so the new Vera could live in the place of the old. Someone who revels in their own existence. Bring on the pain. For to feel pain was to know life. This was the Vera of today. But the question of who the Vera of tomorrow would be remains unanswered.